Atlantis. This is Marshall Clarfeld, author of Adam the Missing Link, reporting my research demonstrating that Atlantis was probably one of the Anunnaki cities created before the Great Flood. Atlantis was first disclosed 2,360 years ago when it appeared in one of Plato's dialogues. Plato wrote that Solon was the first to tell the story of Atlantis. Solon, the great lawgiver of Athens, is honored today by statues and sculptures displayed in the halls of the U.S. Library of Congress, the U.S. House of Representatives, and the U.S. Supreme Court. While visiting the priests of Egypt, Solon heard the story of this magnificent ancient civilization that disappeared 9,000 years prior. The story of this ancient city and its highly advanced technology was described in enormous detail. There were 5 concentric islands supported by 5 great walls. Each island was surrounded by a grand canal. The walls of Atlantis were covered with coatings of the mysterious orichalcum. Orichalcum, according to the Encyclopedia Britannica, is the Latin word for brass. Brass is more golden colored than either copper or bronze, both of which are reddish. Since brass was not discovered until 300 years after Plato died, it appears that he was describing the metal used by the builders of Atlantis without knowing what it was. According to Plato, the Atlantean civilization was using this metallurgic technology 9,000 years earlier. The Anunnaki had been building their cities many thousands of years before the deluge. Plato's description of the dimensions of Atlantis, circular land islands, the outermost being 8 miles in diameter, with the hub piece containing the magnificent temple home of Poseidon. We know from earlier accounts in cuneiform tablets that the Sumerian god of water, Enki, had demonstrated great skills with water construction projects, draining the swamps before establishing the first Anunnaki city of Eridu. The completed construction described by Plato is very exacting, with the uncommonly shiny brass walls that created brilliant reflection off the canal waters. This reflected light could easily be seen for many miles overhead. All of these characteristics coming from the 11,500-year-old period could certainly be the work of the Anunnaki god of water, Enki, son of Anu of Nibiru. With the help of the Egyptian scribes, Solon began translating the treasured historical records into the Greek language, vividly depicting the amazing ancient event. Solon named the location Atlantis in honor of the ancient Greek titan, Atlas. Plato wrote, "In the days of old, the gods had the whole earth distributed amongst them by allotment." Plato may have read the Sumerian tablets, where it is written that the Anunnaki leaders divided earth between the brothers Enlil and Enki. Plato wrote that Poseidon, god of water, who designed Atlantis, making alternate zones of sea and land, larger and smaller, encircling one another. Poseidon, being a god, found no difficulty in making special arrangements for the center island, bringing up 2 springs of water from beneath the earth, with each circumference equidistant every way from the center, where he built his magnificent palace. Enki was a Sumerian god of water, and it is my belief that Poseidon was Enki. Much earlier, Enki, the Anunnaki god of water, was sent away to Africa from his cherished home Eridu, the first earth establishment he had built and designed. As Plato stated, the earth was distributed among them by allotment. Enki was not happy about leaving his Sumerian home. He certainly had the credentials and skills to have designed Atlantis, and may well have done so as a replacement for his lost Eridu. The fact that the name Plato used for the designer of Atlantis was Poseidon and not Enki is understandable. Throughout history, the names of the 12 Sumerian gods changed with different civilizations. For instance, the leader-commander god in Greece was called Zeus. Jupiter was the name given to this same god in Rome. The Anunnaki called their commander Enlil, and his brother was Enki, the god of the water. Zeus's brother was Poseidon, and Jupiter's brother was Neptune. Both Poseidon and Neptune were the gods of the water, and their brothers were the commander. The Anunnaki built many complex constructions that doubled as aerial navigation beacons. For instance, the brilliant Giza pyramids, the Easter Island reflective statues, the Nazca lines and biomorphs in Peru. Atlantis was another beacon when viewed high from in the sky. The multiple circular design could be easily observed from overhead flight, used as a navigational beacon for landing on Earth. The brass walls of the circular structure would have brilliantly reflected sunlight on the canal waters and been easily observed from above. Solon visited Egypt around 500 BC. The priest stated that Atlantis was destroyed 9,000 years earlier, or 9500 BCE, which is approximately 11,500 years from the present. Some researchers believe the Great Flood occurred 11,500 years ago and would account for the total destruction of Atlantis along with the major cities of the Anunnaki civilization between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, the cities of the Eden. The Anunnaki cities of Eridu, Larsa, Bad Tibera, Shirappak, Nippur, and Larak all were destroyed in the Great Flood 11,500 years ago. The Anunnaki called this period Olden Times, the cities of the Eden. The Anunnaki established other cities outside of Eden in Southeast Africa, the gold mining operation, which was dealt to Enki to control. It is probable that Enki, Poseidon, looking to create a rival city to those of the Eden, created Atlantis as his home away from the Abzu. My research locating the geographical coordinates of Atlantis has led me to the major island of Cape Verde group. Further research is required, but this location appears to be connected on the global string of aerial beacons starting with Easter Island moving across to Nazca Plain, the biomorphs lines in Peru, and then to Cairo, where the pyramids at Giza. In between this line, from Easter Island, Peru, the Atlantic, is Cape Verde Island, which I suspect is where Atlantis was constructed. Plato's detailed description of Atlantis with its most unusual design demonstrates the work of a multi-talented Enki, Prince of Nibiru, firstborn of Anu.